Hello there, my awesome friend. I hope this finds you doing well and thriving wherever you are, whatever it is that you may be doing. Many of you incredible students have had to deal with loss and grief at a young age, and as a result, you've asked me to record a podcast about how to best deal with losing someone you love, or someone that was a friend, or even someone that was at school. What can you expect when we lose people that we love, that we care for, and how do we deal with the hurt and grief that often follows? I hope it's okay for me to share a quick and personal experience from my own life. I promise I'll be quick, that perhaps can lead us into this discussion. I lost my dad a few years ago. I admit that I was not very close to my father. I had been as a child and loved him dearly, but since the divorce of my parents, which happened when I was about 11, my relationship with my father was at best distant. Unfortunately, my dad was someone that I was kind and respectful to, but not someone that was in my circle of trust, someone that I would go to for advice or for me to speak about life. I'm sad that it was that way, and I have regrets about that for sure. After the divorce, I moved to America. For those of you who don't know, I'm from Portugal, and that distance certainly didn't facilitate me fixing that relationship. I would see my dad here and there throughout the years, and then 4 years ago, my brother, who's still living in Portugal, called me and said that my dad was dying and that it likely wouldn't be long. So my wife and I decided to quickly get on a plane. We traveled to Portugal to say goodbye to my dad. He was mentally aware some of the time, and some other time he was not. He could barely speak and was physically in bad shape. Those few days that I spent with my dad were pretty unique, actually. I'm fairly aware of what's going on inside my body and mind most of the time, but there was a mixture of feelings that happened inside of me, all the way from regret to shame to anger to sadness to doubt, feelings of helplessness, happiness, relief, forgiveness, harmony, gratitude. All of these feelings passed through and over me during those days, and in the days and months after, and maybe even now, actually. My father died the day that my wife and I flew back to the U.S. And since then, and on the anniversary of my father's passing, which was April 1st, my dear and awesome wife brings me a plant to commemorate that memory in the life of my dad. This is a key step that I'll talk about later, but as you can see, women are just awesome, man. And my amazing wife has rescued me and helped me from many a situation, which honestly, women have been doing that to help men for millennia. I'm telling you this because there are several key pieces in this story that I believe can be a benefit to you, and that can help your mind to have a healthy expectation of what can happen and what you can do about it. I believe that a correct expectation of things can minimize the negative impact and the length of those negative impacts on your life. 1, expect to experience a wide range of emotion, all the way from disbelief, anger, sadness, fear, shame, regret, happiness, impatience, gratitude, numbness, bitterness, anxiety, hopelessness, helplessness, despair. In addition, it can also involve physical symptoms, things like fatigue, changes in appetite, like you're not hungry anymore, difficulty sleeping. I think you get the idea, but just imagine that your emotions represent a piano keyboard, and when someone is dying or you're grieving, there's a wide range of emotions that can and will show up. This doesn't mean that you're doing it wrong or that's bad or good or weird. It just is. Listen, it just is. So when you experience the full breadth of emotion in your life and you feel a little bit out of control, I want you to simply say, hey, this is expected. I'm not a robot or a computer. Life is complex, and so are my feelings, and so are circumstances. So ease up on the negative judgments and let the tide of emotions swell up, knowing that this is what is supposed to happen. 2, whatever timelines you have about or surrounding losing someone you know or grieving, throw them away. I don't know where we pick up all that crappy psychology and crazy ideas, but we do. And if you happen to have an idea inside of your head that likes everything to fit nicely into a timeline, do me, others, and yourself a favor and drop that faulty and ineffective idea. Grieving and loss always take time, whatever time, a day, a week, a month, a year, several years, a lifetime. I think we naturally want to suffer less, of course, and want others to suffer less. And in fact, When we stop resisting what's happening and realize that it's a normal part of our lives, we will actually suffer less. So be gentle with yourself and others about timelines. You may be doing well, and then you won't be doing well. You may have a great year and then an exhausting and challenging month filled with sadness and thoughts about the one you lost. This isn't a step back. This doesn't mean that you are doing good and now you're not. This just means that you're still and will likely be impacted by the grief in your life for a long time. So drop the timelines. Take things as they come and do what works that day to either take some time to remember and honor that person or to continue onward in an honorable and awesome way. Remember that grief is not a one-time event. 3, a common misconception is that grief is best kept private. Remember that talking about your grief is absolutely healing and can help you to process your feelings and to find support. This can be done with family, with friends, with co-workers, with teachers, with administrative individuals, and other awesome people, whether they be family members or religious leaders that happen to be a part of your life. There is a magical and healing power that occurs in our lives when we are able to speak through or write through some of the challenges of our lives. Man, poets, writers, and normal folk have written their way through grief for thousands of years. It works, so perhaps try that as well. Sharing your griefs with others can be a helpful way to cope with loss. 4, another thinking error is that you should move on from your grief. Grief is not something that one can simply move on from. It's a process that takes time and that may never be completely resolved. Instead, the goal is to learn to live with the loss, to continue on, to honor that individual, and to find a way to include the person or thing that has been lost in your ongoing life. So now that you know what to expect and not to expect, the next question is, what can you do? And here, I just want to give you some ideas, and I know that there are so many ideas, but these are some that in my 20 years of experience in counseling individuals through loss and grief, I have found have been the most successful and helpful. 1, allow yourself to feel and express the emotions that are happening in your body, whether that's going to a gravesite or going through letters or emails or pictures or memories or Facebook or Instagram posts. Exposing yourself to the grief and allowing it to happen actually allows you to grieve in a healthier way. I know that we naturally want to resist and avoid things that are painful to us, but in some ways that resistance allows our grief to persist. So if possible, accept what happened so that it becomes less impactful. 2, talking to someone. I know I've already spoken about this. I know that this is pretty basic, but my goodness, please find someone to speak to about these things. Loss is traumatic, and talking through it allows the trauma to be put together in a healthier and meaningful way. If you're going through a grieving period right now, who would you be willing to go to? Is it a family member, a religious leader, a friend, a co-worker, a counselor, a therapist? Whoever it is, find that person and open up a bit. I guarantee it will help you. 3, find support. If you're finding that your grief is persisting and impacting your day-to-day ability to function at school, at work, with your family, with your friends, please consider that you may need a little help. This is okay, people. Please consider the idea that you don't have to suffer endlessly. And studies and research have shown that when we find support, our suffering lessens and our ability to endure difficulty is enhanced. 4, take care of yourself. Once again, I know that this is pretty basic, but it's also foundational. Take a shower in the morning and be ready for the day. Wear clean clothes. Wear clean underwear. Do what you can to eat a healthy meal. Get out and move. You got to move that body and feed it energy and health. Do what you can to sleep or even power nap through the days. Remember, simple things, but important ones. Please take care of them. Make sure to take care of your physical and emotional well-being by eating well, getting enough sleep, and exercising. 5, honor that individual by continuing on and living a life that is meaningful for you. Accepting and finding harmony with that loss involves the ability to live and continue to live. It means to love again, to continue and pursue things that are valuable to you. This doesn't mean that you forget the person or thing that you lost. It's just that you learn to live with the loss and the love you had for them. This means that you must write goals again, that you must create objectives, things for you to pursue, things that will bring meaning, passion, and adventure back into your life. This means that you must be daring enough to go forward and dare greatly again, with the realization that this is not meaningless suffering, but that this experience ultimately leads to your spiritual and mental evolution, that this situation contributes to a powerful experience that ultimately enhances your ability to be truly compassionate in this life. No experience need be wasted. And so this is what you will ultimately do. You will take this experience and with patience and in a nurturing way, you will care for your mind, your body, your spirit, and your relationships, so that someday you can look to this experience and with a mixture of gratitude and sadness, you'll find wholeness and harmony instead of bitterness and anger. Others have done this. Thousands of others, millions of others have, and you will too. I hope these steps have been helpful and can act as signposts for you, as a way for you to check yourself and to know whether things are flowing in a good way. Remember that this is a little bit of a roller coaster-like experience here. But if you can see yourself moving in that general direction, then you know that you are moving forward in a generally healthy way. If you find yourself out of control a lot of the time and it's not getting better, then perhaps it's time to consider adding a counselor, a therapist, a school counselor, an adult, a family member, or some other tools that can help you to regain some perspective and motivation and keep moving forward towards a peaceful acceptance of life and death.